G'day, this is Adam from Mad Micro RC Mods, and welcome to the fully detailed Hot Wheels Cocan car conversion video. In this video, you'll see the full detailed how-to of this build. There'll be a parts list on the screen now. You're probably surprised you need two cars in a can, or you need one not working for parts, basically. It's not a very hard project to do, it's just a little time consuming because there's a few fiddly little things that you must do to this car to make it fit. I hope you like what you see. If you have a go at one of these, please let me know what your results like, and if you get it right, you should end up with something that goes a little bit like this. Now, I must be honest, this car was a big surprise. I expected a result, I just didn't know how good or bad it was going to be. The extra weight of the car seems to actually help it with its handling and steering. Depending on the road surface you're using, how dusty the floor is, it'll actually drift a little bit at times. And I did change the rear wheel diameter, so gear the car down, but by putting a slightly higher RPM motor in it, it actually ends up as fast as a standard car, even though it weighs nearly twice as much. Yeah, it doesn't lose any top speed either. So yeah, a great result if you do one. Now for this project I chose the Hot Wheels Ford Focus RS. Now the main reason I picked it is because it has a very similar offset and wheelbase to a 1/64 scale Coke can car, or car in a can. The way to tell them apart is the 1/64 scale ones will have two screws holding the body kit on instead of one, and sometimes it'll even be written on the can for you what scale it is. But yeah, you want something that sort of matches up. Oh, there we go, manufacturing error. This tire wasn't put on properly. But yeah, basically you want two cars that are very similar to start with. It just makes it a lot easier to do. Now the first thing you have to deal with is getting the body kit off the Hot Wheels chassis. And the way you do this is you get a very small drill and you drill through the center of these rivets, and then you get a slightly larger drill and basically drill out what's left of the rivet. I'll quickly show you a demonstration of it now, but don't hold it the way I do in this demonstration, as you really got to be more careful with your fingers. Once you drill the rivets out, the body kit should pretty much just spring apart. Keep in mind you're working with electronics. You don't want any metal filings or fragments anywhere around, so thoroughly clean off your work area if you're working with electronics in the same place.
Okay, so that's the bit we don't need. Now the die-cast body, I picked the Ford Focus because it looks smaller and less material in it, but geez, it is pretty heavy. Let's try something. Car in a can, 19.23 grams. Okay, this will just be the stuff, Hot Wheels die-cast body. 30 grams. So this body kit weighs more than 10 grams than the actual whole car itself. That's quite amazing. Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some, it's going to work, but geez, it's going to be slow. I will have to change the motor, but even if I do, it's going to need the voltage. It's going to need more power. But we'll see how it goes. 30 grams. Here's an idea. I'll do a load test. Still go. Okay, I've got the body kit that I want and I've got the car that I want. I'm just really quickly now zipping them together and looking how the fit's going to be. Now when I put it on like this and look at the back, it looks like we've got a really good fit to that rear hole. The wheel position alignment and the hole, perfect. Now the front one If you can see through there, I've got that rivet bar or post. It's basically where the rivet came through that we drilled out. So what we're going to have to do is reduce that carefully with a file, a Dremel or something, a drill even. But you want to be able to file it flat. You want that to be nice and flat, and you want to do it slowly. So that you can basically put this back on. This is a dummy car, by the way, not the car that I'm intending to use. It's identical, it's just got issues. So basically I'm going to grind that down, check the fit, and eventually it should come down to where I want it roughly. And then we'll go from there.
Now, I was told that when my Dremel person was doing this, that the car body started to heat up. So what they did is they did little cuts, put it aside, picked it up after it cooled down, and then did a bit more. They didn't want the heat to affect the paint or make the paint go funny. So that's why it was done in stages, just be aware of that. And yeah, the post came off. And then after the post was removed, a recheck was done, and it's still too high, of course. So then the Drebly came back out, and the post has been reduced even more. And eventually, I think it was like around 1.8 to 2 millimeters high. That's all that was left of it. This is just the part where the post is being reduced and flattened down, basically. Using a Drebly with a straight shank and a rounded dome end on it. The rear post was also flattened down and reduced by probably 0.5 millimeter in total, not by very much at all.
Now, I've noticed that the wheels I'm using on the back on the Coke can car, or car in a can, pretty much match the diameter of the wheel arch. So there's going to be no option in this except for changing the tyres so I can get lower profile, but I think that's it for these. I may have to get some front wheels off another car and basically make up a rear axle kit. The alternative is to file out the wheel arch on one side. At the moment, I've got to move the car's chassis forward. There'll be plastic butting up. Depends which car you use, obviously. They'll all be different. But this is sort of how you do it. You sort of like chop out the metal because that's the hardest stuff to move, and then you remove what plastic you need to after that. And at the moment, to move the car forward, because I mean the wheels are jammed up, I'm going to have to just take away some of this plastic in the front here, because that's what's fouling up, if you have a look at that. So if I can remove that material, then I should be able to move the car forward a little bit, or the chassis forward in the body. That way, if I have to, I can file out this side of the wheel arch, obviously half the wheel arch, so it'll be this half mainly that I'll do, which will run up into this door seam maybe. The alternative is to remove some of this wheel arch, but I'd rather not. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, chances are I'm going to have to file off an angle on all these big metal surfaces because they're so thick, give more clearance for the wheels to steer within, and you know, you get some white paint and you just, you know, a paint pen, and you just colour it back over. So, I'll start chopping this away then. Ah, wrong car. See, this is where I've actually got to get the real one out and start hacking it up now. This is the actual car I intend to use that works properly. So I've got to be much more careful now about what I do. Now, here's a trick you can do when you want to cut things but you can't put them down flat, just press on them. I'm going to use this rubber matting. You can use plastic. Rubber's better because it tends not to move. I'm just putting that corner up against it. That way it's not going to damage the car at all. I might hold it from the back. Yeah, like this. And then I can just cut and shave away this front piece of material as I need to. At the moment I'm just going to shave off about 1 or 2 mil and see what I get. I tend not to measure much when I do this sort of stuff. I think plastic would be better, this rubber's moving. But yeah, I mean, it's plastic. It's very malleable. You can pretty much get a sharp hobby knife and it will just slice through it. And your finger, so always be very careful. Before you ever put pressure down on a knife, make sure that your fingers aren't anywhere on the other side of it, or you're not pulling something towards yourself. These knives will cut through your skin too quick. Okay, knock that off. It's a little tricky doing this in front of the camera because I have to do it at such a distance, so it's a lot harder to make it look really tidy and nice. Sucks a bit because you're looking closer, basically. Okay, I've just squared that off and taken a bit off that end piece there. Now this is the car we're going to use, so I've got to be more careful when I'm handling it and not muck up any of the wires yet. There we go. Now, that forward position's come up, yeah, and butts more up against that side. Now the wheels here are rubbing nice and good. So, definitely got to go further forward and definitely got to do something about these wheels. So I'll have a quick look now on my box of parts and see if I've got a smaller axle set or if I can make an axle set. I think it'll be a make an axle set somehow. Now this is why I always keep all the old parts and bits and pieces to cars. I've got a lot more than this stuff laying around, but yeah, for now this is all I'm after. Now I think you'll find that the smaller size Coke can cars, which these are the 164s I think they are, the back wheels are all the same size. I mean that's as small as it gets on a rear axle kit. Now I have axle kits here, yeah, same thing. But what I'll do is I'll strip the wheels off, which are front wheels, this is front wheel set, off another car, and I'll remount them on an axle, and then we'll have a rear wheel diameter more like this, which will fit under the car and also give us the ability to move the body kit back and forward to position it better. So I'll get onto that now. A lot of the times these aren't pressed in really well. I'll just take the tyres off first, might make it a little easier. And I think with this one, because I really don't, I need the wheels in good nick, but I don't need any of this other stuff. I might just rip this one apart somewhat. It's a lot easier. Give this a try. I've got spares if I muck it up. There we go, perfect, separated it. Okay. A lot of times these pins are pressed in or glued in. Sometimes it's a hot process where they have it all ready to go in a machine and it applies a really minute amount of heat to this and then it whacks the wheel on top. This one I don't know, it's probably just a cold press by the look of it. So, now I have to get a rear axle kit and rebuild. Before I start, the other thing that might be handy to do on this one is I'll get a texter and I'll just mark the positions of the wheels. Just mark a little spot if it works. I'll just mark a little spot where the wheels were going up to, because you actually do need something up there on one side, which helps with the alignment. I believe the axle's kept in place this way mainly by these little plastic ends on the wheels, and sometimes the wheels won't have the same amount of meat on them or more, like these ones actually got more, so yeah, but that's okay. I think these will work out. So yeah, I'll just mark the offsets or whatever, or where the shoulders are with a white paint pen. You don't have to do this. You can do it by eye when you're gluing them back on. Risky. The other options, do it on a car body when you put them back on, so you get it exactly the same place again. So now I've got to remove these wheels. Put them over there. So what you can do first up is just give it a twist and try. See if they come loose. There we go, there's one. Because they're not on tight. What they do is they get a steel shaft, they cut the end of it and they put a tiny little knurl. It's called a knurl, but it's got a K at the start, I think. And that's basically just makes the metal a bit rougher and raised in sections, grabs onto the plastic. That's one. And the other one's harder sometimes. You don't want to reef on this gear. That's where these come in. Just grab it like that, same as before. Just give it a twist and pull and see what happens. Yep, done. Perfect. Now we can check for a refit. Oh, look at that. That's going to be easy. It looks like the shoulder spacing and everything is identical. So you'll be able to basically just glue and push them on, I think, and that will work out identically the same. Now, okay, we've mock reassembled this rear axle with the smaller front wheels off another car. And a good way to test is put the tyres back on, put the wheels on, just give it a roll back and forward and just sort of look at it and see if that shaft's going up and down or if any of the wheels are wobbling too much. Generally looking down from the top's a good way to do it, but I'm not moving the camera. So it seems really good so far. So all we have to do is glue it. So we'll pull it back apart. Oh. That one's almost a dead fit like that. Okay, we get some CO glue. You don't want much, you just want to apply a tiny little bit. So what I tend to do is use something small and sharp. Just put a bead of glue on the end of it and try and get that right down inside the hole. Yep. You don't really want it on the outside, you want it on the inside only. I might just put some more. And even pays just to wipe off that outside, and you'll also have to wipe it off after you put the shaft in. And you kind of want to work quick. As you can see, glue's bulged back out, so you want to clean that off. You don't really want any glue on that shaft because you'll just have to scrape it off afterwards anyway, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so get that off a bit. So yeah, this is CO foam. I use it for building the aircraft and stuff. You always end up with little offcuts and scraps, so you can pretty much sacrifice them when you're doing stuff. Okay, so that's one side on. Let's give it a bit of a push and a wriggle. See, that's the one that was a bit wobbly that I have to get right. The other one seems to just fit really well. So I've got to work fast because this glue sets pretty quickly. So you've got to get it on, check for the alignment again, make sure that it's not wobbling. And if it is, you can turn one of the wheels to trim that. You can straighten it up a little bit. Oh, too much glue, now I don't have any. So you sort of got to work a little bit quick with the CO glue. Just try and get that glue right down inside. Gently push that one on. So as you can see, it's coming up to the mark. I don't know why the camera's capturing that. Okay, so they're both on. I'll just give them a little wriggle. And the fun part. Sometimes the rim's good, but the tyre's wobbly because it's not seated properly. Okay, one's a little wobbly, one's not too bad. Might just give them a little bit more of a wriggle. I'll just push on the centers and turn the shaft a little bit. Try again. Oh, terrible. This one's awful. Okay, that's heaps better. The other one's all wrong. Okay, so this one's not right. Still a bit out, maybe. Yeah, just a fraction out still. The best thing to do is just rotate it a little bit. Put it, rotate it a bit, check again. Oh, wrong. I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That's the rear drive shaft done. Now just let that glue set. I probably won't use any of the kicker on it, which you can. It sets it instantly. I'll just leave it as it is and come back to it in about 5-8 minutes. And then I'll install it in the car and see, because I've got a funny feeling that being so much smaller in diameter, if you look at the back of the car here, there's this section here of plastic. I may have to grind that back. You don't want to go too deep because that's basically where the gear is. That little gear that you see there, it sits in here, but I will have to remove some of that. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this axle kit in and see how it works out. I'm hoping it has two effects. By putting this smaller diameter rear tyre axle in, or rear wheel axle, theoretically, not theoretically, you are basically gearing the car down. So I'll just really carefully do this, because if I do it carefully I won't have to muck around too much. So I'm just going to try and sneak that out without disturbing the compound gear too much. And then I'll sneak this one back into I can. Eek. Now I have disturbed the compound gear just a little, so I'm just going to press that back in. Seems fine. Now I should be able to just get this over the top nicely. And just clip it back in. Now I'm also going to take the step of changing the motor there we go. I'm going to change this motor. In a previous video, I think it was the 2500 subscriber car build that I did, I actually put a bigger motor in. So if you want to see how I do the motor swap, so I'm going to put a more powerful motor with slightly higher RPMs to help compensate for this massively heavy car body. And also, eventually this car is going to go on lithium anyway and become full RC with a Planktrico kit. So yeah, if you want to see that part, link in the description. Also, link in the description, the motor itself, I found that it's in micron wings, which is probably one of the world's best suppliers of micro RC stuff all in one place. If you live in Australia, it's even cooler because the stuff arrives within days from when you order it. There's a guy called Mark from Micro Wings. He basically does the stuff, sells it, boxes it, sends it out. The range unbelievable, and he's got these motors. He's got these motors. They're 2mm longer. You cut out a tiny bit of plastic, if you have a look in the video where I did it, and you just basically solder or connect the wires, and that's it. You've instantly got more power in a standard car. So here we go. Now I don't think we're going to get anywhere. It feels like it's dragging on the ground a bit, so it might be a drift car. Who knows? So we'll fire it up and test it now and see what we get. Okay, so we'll just give it a quick test and see what we get. Get our steering, good. Whoa. I think we're still dragging though, to be honest. Here's an easy way to test, this will be fun. There's a white marker, there we go. I'm just going to marker this in with some white paint. Drop him down. See if there's any paint left behind. Yep. Okay, so it works, but I'm going to have to change it a little bit. But that'll be quite simple. Somewhere along the way I'll just get a knife and shave that off a bit, and that should be it. I'm pretty sure if we have a look now, the amount of clearance we've probably got is almost non-existent. Yeah, it's just scraping. I can feel it just touching it. So yeah, there'll be just a little bit of material off there. It's got a recycle. Sorry, it's got a little recycle symbol on there that pokes out. Probably just scrape that off, might be enough. But anyway, that was easy. So that's it. Got to be careful. This is metal die cast. It's painted, but it's not insulated properly. If you go whacking that on top of that as it is, there's a very good chance you're going to short something out and kill the car. So there's going to be some re-insulation that'll have to go on sometime before I put this body kit on the car. I'd love to whack it on now and see if you can haul the load. I'm pretty sure it can. I just want to see how fast it takes off. But anyway, you have to be patient sometimes. The reason this car body, for instance, is the way it is I did mods on it. I cut the light fittings off, I left the wires loose, and then when I pushed the body on and off, one of the lighting wires that was loose touched on a component and I actually fried the whole car. So, lesson learned. Don't leave loose wires inside a car and go, yeah, it'll be fine till later. Later is when you blow it up. So yeah, I won't muck around with this one now with the body kit until I insulate it a little bit.